recording. Give it a second. All right, we're good. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Transform Sales Podcast. We are talking today with Mark, and we are in the Sales Software Review series. Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
Doing great as well. It's great to have you on the show. And since we have a lot to show today, I want to jump into the first question. What is the name of your software product that you want to share today?
Yeah, appreciate you having me. Really excited to dive in. Name is Recapped, and you can find us at recap.io. .com will be coming shortly.
Awesome. Now let's talk about Recap.io from a perspective of who your ideal client is.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So because our product is so flexible, there's a lot of variation, but really our bread and butter where we really maximize the most value for our customers is any B2B SaaS sales and customer success team or go-to-market team that has a lot of stakeholders, high complexity, really just a lot of back and forth with clients. And even if maybe it's not a lot of back and forth on the sales cycle, if it is during the implementation or the onboarding or renewals, Recap could be a good fit. And the company size really is all over the place. We have founders that come to us when they just started the company and there's no salespeople. We have Fortune 500 companies using us for hundreds of reps. So it really depends. Our sweet spot, though, is really, I'd say, probably between 50 and 500 employees because we can get up and running really, really quickly and just deliver value.
Interesting. I was thinking a lot about enterprise type of clients, right? When they have those long sales cycles back and forth. But you mentioned something interesting. This is not limited to only the sales cycle. It could be the onboarding, the implementation, and sometimes your sales cycle could be quick, but the back and forth in, for instance, gathering documentation, maybe some compliance processes, I can see how that can extend. And therefore, that range that you mentioned, a little bit smaller or mid-market, let's say, right? 50 to 500. Can come into play. Now, tell us a little bit about Recap.io from the perspective of what new results, what new achievements, what can they do now because they have your platform, things that they couldn't do before.
Yeah. So first off, a lot of it is really just making everyone's lives easier, whether you're a seller or customer success, or even the customer or prospect that's, engaging with a vendor. So much of this communication happens through a million different platforms. And so being able to have everything in one place where they can go in and standardize it and have visibility into that, that's first off something that they couldn't have it before. And once you have everything consolidated, you're able to create a repeatable playbook that you can execute on every single deal or every single implementation. And that provides a lot of visibility and enablement for pretty much everybody involved. So you can close deals faster, you can get visibility, you can hold prospects accountable to next steps, or even teammates hold them accountable. And so it really just creates this streamlined, really easy way to just stay on top of everything when it comes to managing your deals, closing your deals, onboarding customers, and really delivering a really great buyer experience at the end of the day.
Now, Mark, someone in the audience may be listening in and thinking, hey, but that's what I do with my CRM. That's where I keep track of the emails, the phone calls that I've had, and the notes on where each opportunity is. What would you tell them in regards of how Recap.io is different?
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately, the lie that Salesforce fed us all these years, right? That was the promise, right? We were supposed to be able to do all of these things in Salesforce and HubSpot. And unfortunately, the sad reality is we just can't. And I think a lot of it is because, look at Salesforce, right? It's 25 years old, right? And they've more or less been the same product since the beginning. And really what that translated to is internal system of record, AKA a database. So
yes.
How does Salesforce help you collaborate with clients, share content, create next steps and hold everyone accountable, and really have that client-facing experience? That piece is completely missing from your CRM. And that's why Recap kind of lays on top of the CRM to provide that client-facing collaboration.
Fantastic. Now, let's say they decide to take a leap of faith and install or acquire Recap.io. How should they measure success of work when working with you?
Yeah. So first off, we install success criteria for every single customer that we work with, and we try and work backwards from what is going to be a no-brainer renewal for you. Usually, those metrics are adoption rate. Right? Are people actually using it? That's first and foremost. Is it driving more deals? Is it driving faster deals? And are we able to close deals for more revenue? And those are usually the most three important metrics. And then there's a bunch of other stuff: time saved, efficiency, better forecasting, and a lot of the really qualitative things like a better buying experience, which might be hard to measure, but it is important, and especially in today's market.
Perfect. I like that because there's some, let's say, first impact KPIs like user adoption, but ultimately everything rolls up to revenue. Are we impacting
Yes.
revenue? Are we closing, reducing the sales cycle? Those are measurable outcomes. So why don't we jump ahead? If you can please share your screen, we'll give us a quick demo. Why don't you paint a quick situation, maybe on a potential customer? What could they be going through? And then show us a use case for your product, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Awesome. And before we jump into the actual product, I think it is worth exploring really kind of, I guess, the context, right? Like I mentioned earlier, put yourself in the shoes of a salesperson, right? If you're doing a transactional SMB deal, then a lot of this really doesn't apply, but it may apply in the customer success side. But most deals, especially today, because the economy has gotten to where it is and companies aren't willing to make risky investments at the end of the day, everything requires a committee, and there's a lot of stakeholders that are involved to make purchase decisions ultimately. So
Mhm.
from a sales perspective, I mean, this is what we're looking at right on the left side of the screen. It's a dozen stakeholders across a dozen different channels, right? And so most of the sales reps day isn't actually selling. About 70% of it is managing notes, herding cats, getting stakeholders aligned, updating admin work, doing things that are like aren't actually driving revenue, right?
Right.
And then on the opposite side of the table, no matter how hard you think selling is, buying is even harder. And a lot of times when someone is buying something or wants to champion something inside an organization, they don't even know how to do it. They don't know what the next steps are. This is Gartner's fantastic graphic, I think, showing you like the complexities of the typical B2B purchase, really. And so this is kind of like what the world is today. And I think it's only going to get more complex. It's not going to get any easier. And this is what we saw, and I saw as my decade, either selling or leading sales teams before founding Recapped. I think it's really important to kind of like understand why any of this even matters in the first place, because it's a crazy chaotic mess at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's a flawed process.
Yeah. And buying and selling should be easier. End of story. Right. And I think especially too, when you like, sales isn't just selling something to someone to, hit your number and make commissions. It should be solving a problem. And so if
Mhm.
someone's coming to you with a specific problem and you have a great fit for them and you're not able to make that partnership happen, that's a lose-lose on both situations.
Yeah. You're doing a disservice to both.
Exactly. It is a disjustice. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, how would it look? How would your product look on top of Salesforce, like on a dashboard? How would people interact with it? Who are the main users? In this case, I would assume a VP of sales is the one that wants to bring the software on board, but it's going to be interacted with by the managers on the reporting side and by the reps on the forefront feeding the information. And would they feed anything differently? As in, do they still type their notes into the CRM, or do they start interacting with some sort of like extension? How does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So we'll dive in a sec, but long story short, the end users at the end of the day, the ones that get the most value, I'd say, from Recapped are sellers, customer success, solutions engineers, the ones that are actually in the trenches doing most of the work, because they're the ones that are spending 70% of their day on inefficient activities. Then we have the management and the like VP level. They get a lot more insight and they're able to go in and coach and inspect deals. But we made Recap so that we spit out a lot of the data back into wherever they're comfortable living, whether that's Salesforce, whether that's Slack, it doesn't matter to us. Most end up living out of Recap anyways, but we want to make it easy for them. And updating Salesforce, they can continue doing that, but they can actually update almost all of their Salesforce activity from within Recap. And that's what drives so much of the adoption that we see. And so
Amazing.
as we jump in, right, here's our simple dashboard, right? Where you come in, as a rep or as a manager or as a VP, you're able to go in and apply different filters and really create different views for all of my deals. Hey, show me all of my deals closing this month. Show me the ones that were supposed to close this month that fell through. Show me the deals that are now on onboarding. Whatever you want to do, you're able to create a view for it and really just leverage that. And let's say I'm a rep. I'm working at Acme Co. I'm able to go in and see the status of every single deal on a level that I just couldn't ever in my Salesforce, right? Because Salesforce typically is 5, 6, 7 stages. But we all know that buying and selling is not 5 or 6 or 7 steps, right? It might be 50 to 100 at least, especially on mid-market enterprise. So really the realization that we had 5 years ago is that so much of sales is just project management. And we give that project management approach to managing your deals and collaborating with customers. So for example, if we look at Amazon, we can see that, we've done 2 out of 13 steps here, but maybe Apple has done 13 out of 28. So it's further along. And a lot of this information syncs back into Salesforce, providing you those insights there as well.
Interesting. And this is where the software and the product can transcend the barriers of typically a CRM used only for sales. And once the contract is signed, that's where the process ends. You can continue to add steps on customer success, again, onboarding, success, upsells, cross sales, renewals, evangelists, testimonials, feedback, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Because success doesn't end when the contract is signed, right? That's when the work really begins, in my opinion, because now someone has entrusted you with a pretty big investment in most cases. And now you have to actually make sure that the handoff goes smoothly, that everything that was captured during the sales process is there for customer success, and that everyone is literally on the same page.
How do you deal? I'm imagining that one of the main challenges your buyers have is adoption as well, because it seems like it replaces for the reps the status quo of going to Salesforce and operating from there, or probably going to their dialer and operating from there. It seems like this replaces what it should be their dashboard, and they should work from here. Like this, it notifies them which lead to work, what is the next step they should execute. Is it that type of level of replacement? And again, how do you deal with that change management?
Yeah. So I think you hit the nail on the head that change management is the hardest part. I think that's true for any product, any training, any process that you implement. However, it hasn't really been a challenge for us as much as you would think. We have really, really high adoption rates across most of our customers because at the end of the day, reps are already trying to do this with piecemeal solutions. They're creating spreadsheets, mutual action plans. They're doing this in Google Docs. They're taking notes on a notebook. They're sending recap emails with everything. Like all of this work is already being done in some case, but it's taking them 5 times longer to do it. And it doesn't feed in together and it's just scattered all over the place. So by consolidating all of that, making it really easy, reps on average are saving about 2 hours a day in admin work by using Recapped. And that's an extra day a week, ultimately.
Got it. Now, this is the dashboard of Recap. It consolidates the information about every deal. If I were to send an email, make a phone call, would I do it from within Recap's dashboard, or would I go to my CRM for that, or my dialer?
Yeah. So we don't integrate currently with calls and emails. We will shortly. Really, Recap is kind of the consolidation of the content, the notes, anything that we're sharing with clients, as well as activities that I need to do. Like we need to schedule a meeting. We need to review pricing, proposals, etc. The calls themselves will still happen in SalesLoft or any other platform, but a lot of our customers will actually embed Recapped wherever they're working. So if they're making the dials out of Salesforce, for example, they still have that Recapped workspace visible in Salesforce as well.
Perfect. And is there like a tool that listens into the calls, into the meetings, does transcription, let's say note-taking abilities?
Yeah, that's one. I don't want to speak too much about the roadmap, but it is absolutely something we're working on.
Fantastic. I'm imagining AI is going to be there.
Yes. Yeah, we already have some V1s of it in the platform, but the next version is going to be pretty amazing.
Fantastic. Well, that's a very good coverage of your tool. Is there anything else, Mark, that you would like the audience to take away from this session, and what recap could mean for them?
Yeah, for sure. So let's actually explore what one of these deal rooms could actually look like, right? So for example, let's say I'm working an interaction with Amazon. Instead of again going through and emails and spreadsheets and PowerPoints scattered all over the place, we could create a deal room here. This could be loaded from a template, so it's really easy. It takes you 2 minutes to update, but we can then share this with my buyer, for example, at Amazon, and they could come in here and navigate the entire deal room with anything that they might need. And some of that content might be client facing, but maybe, for example, these two orange tabs here, the pricing, legal, and internal CRM, I don't want them seeing that, so it's hidden. And so we're able to consolidate all of this content in here. So for example, in the summary, we have, the current challenges and the impacts that they talked about, maybe a little graphic about why they should look at us, right? Listing out who the stakeholders are. And a really big piece of this, if we navigate to the next steps, we can actually see what the next steps and action items that need to be taken on both sides right here in one place. And we can assign these to clients or teammates, and they get automatic email reminders along the way. And we can go in and have conversations in real time around those action items.
And question mark, this view is the view that your rep gets, or is the view that the client gets, like that lead or that prospect gets, or is it very similar for both parties?
Yeah, it's very similar for both. So for example, you'll notice here I have, pricing, legal, etc. If I hit preview as client, it looks very similar, but now it's cleaned up. All of the internal content is hidden. So we have everything here in one place. And the goal for reps is they can actually go into presentation mode, which hides all of the internal content, and they can pull this up on their Zoom call or their Google Meets and actually collaborate with their buyers on what needs to be done, what content needs to be shared, who needs to be involved in these deals. Everything is in here. Right? Including case studies, testimonials, decks that need to be shared, videos, right? Pricing and legal. We can have that in here. We can even, to your other question, go in and update all of our CRM fields from right here, or even expose those CRM fields to be client facing. So if someone's doing deal qualification, because everything's right here, we can have one place to do this. It's typically why on average our customers are increasing their CRM adoption by almost double.
I see that you're talking a lot about sales. I wanted to ask you, do you work a lot with agencies? Because I can imagine how this can also help update and maintain the scope of a project if you're doing a marketing, let's say an SEO type of service. Do you work with agencies a lot?
We do, but not as commonly as kind of like the traditional B2B SaaS. But we do have agencies, everything from creative to marketing to brand agencies. At the end of the day, client communication is client communication, right? There's back and forth, there's documents, there's next steps. It doesn't really matter the vertical, whether you're commercial real estate or an agency or a enterprise sales team. You still have pretty much the same stuff that you need to do, maybe in a different order, or maybe the ingredients are a little bit different. But yes, and that's why we would design Recap to be so flexible from day one, because you're able to go in and tailor it to your workflow and agent and vertical ultimately.
Fantastic. So there you have it. As long as you have a process with your clients and customers that requires some back and forth, and there's some critical information that you want to keep in the forefront in an easy way to navigate and recap and be able to bring back, then Recap is definitely a piece of software that you should consider for your tech stack. Feel free to look for them in recap.io or the Cloutos Marketplace. Mark, thank you so much for your time. It's been great learning more about your software. I hope to catch you on the next episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Excellent. You have a great day. Bye-bye. All right.